Welcome to my channel, English for Pathans. The transition from love to hate is a deeply complex psychological process that has been studied extensively by researchers and clinicians. It's important to understand that hate is not the opposite of love, indifference is. Hate and love are actually intense emotional states that share a common core, a high degree of investment and attention. When a relationship sours from love to hate, it's often because the positive investment has been corrupted, not erased. Here is a detailed breakdown according to psychological research and theory.
1. The foundation, the intimate connection between love and hate. Psychologists often point out that we can only truly hate someone we once deeply loved or cared for. You don't have strong feelings of hate for a stranger, you feel indifference or annoyance. This is because psychologists often point out that we can only truly hate someone we once deeply loved or cared for. You don't have strong feelings of hate for a stranger, you feel indifference or annoyance. This is because shared neural pathways. Neuroimaging studies have shown that love and hate activate some of the same regions in the brain's reward circuit, particularly areas linked to passion and goal-directed behavior. However, hate deactivates areas associated with reasoning and judgment more than love does. This suggests hate is a passionate drive, but one stripped of the rational, empathetic components of love. The thin line phenomenon. The common saying that there's a thin line between love and hate has psychological merit. Both emotions involve intense focus on another person. When the object of that focus becomes a source of profound pain instead of pleasure, the emotional energy can flip from positive to negative. 2. Key psychological mechanisms driving the shift. Several well-researched processes explain how this flip occurs.
2. Key psychological mechanisms driving the shift. Several well-researched processes explain how this flip occurs.
Trust is the bedrock of love. When a fundamental betrayal occurs, e.g., infidelity, deception, abandonment in a time of need, it shatters the shared reality of the relationship. Psychological impact. The betrayed partner experiences a profound sense of injustice, humiliation, and a loss of safety. The person who was their source of security becomes their source of terror. This creates cognitive dissonance, the inability to reconcile the loving partner they knew with the hurtful person they now see. Researcher insight. Psychologist John Gottman's research on marital stability identified contempt as the #1 predictor of divorce. Contempt, which includes sarcasm, cynicism, name-calling, and eye-rolling, is a potent form of disrespect that conveys disgust. It's a clear sign that admiration has been replaced by disdain, a key ingredient of hate. B. Narcissistic injury and wounded ego.
For some individuals, a relationship is an extension of their self-esteem. When the relationship fails or they are rejected, they don't just experience sadness, they experience a narcissistic injury. Psychological impact. The rejection is perceived as a devastating blow to their ego and self-worth. The feeling is not just, I miss this person, but, how dare they reject me? They have diminished my value. The resulting rage is a defense mechanism to protect a fragile ego. This is why breakups with individuals high in narcissistic traits can be particularly volatile and turn hateful. Researcher insight. Psychoanalysts like Sigmund Freud and later Otto Kernberg wrote about the link between narcissism and aggression. The hate, in this case, is often a projection of their own feelings of shame and inadequacy onto the former partner. C. Unresolved conflict and the negative sentiment override. Gottman also describes a state called negative sentiment override. In healthy relationships, partners give each other the benefit of the doubt, positive sentiment override. But after years of unresolved conflict, criticism, and resentment, a switch flips. Psychological impact. In a state of negative sentiment override, every action by the partner is interpreted through a negative filter. A simple question like, "Did you remember to pay the bill?" is no longer heard as a neutral inquiry but as an accusation. This constant negative interpretation fuels anger and resentment, building a foundation for hatred. D. The role of attachment injuries.
Attachment theory, developed by John Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth, explains how our early bonds with caregivers create a blueprint for future relationships. An attachment injury occurs when one partner fails to provide support during a critical moment of need, e.g., during illness, grief, or a crisis. Psychological impact. This injury triggers primal abandonment fears. The hurt partner may respond with intense protest behaviors, anger, accusations, and attempts to punish the other. This anger can look like hate, but it's often a desperate, dysfunctional cry for the lost connection and a way to push the other person to see their pain. If this cycle continues, the anger can solidify into a more permanent state of hostility. 3. The vicious cycle that solidifies hate.
Once these mechanisms are in motion, a destructive cycle often takes hold. Hurt. One partner feels deeply wounded. Anger. The hurt is expressed as anger or withdrawal. Defensiveness. The other partner becomes defensive, invalidating the first partner's pain. Contempt. Defensiveness fuels more contempt from the first partner. Stonewalling. Eventually, one partner may shut down completely, stonewalling, to avoid the pain. Narrative of victimhood. Each partner develops a story where they are the victim and the other is the villain. This narrative reinforces the hatred, making reconciliation impossible.
Conclusion: hate is a symptom, not a state. From a psychological perspective, hate in a former love relationship is rarely a pure, simple emotion. It is often a symptom of several underlying issues: unprocessed grief and pain. Hate can be easier to feel than the profound sadness of loss. A defense against vulnerability. Anger creates a wall that protects us from the terrifying feeling of being hurt again. A cry for justice. It can be an attempt to hold the other person accountable for their actions when true justice or apology is not possible. In summary, relationships go from love to hate when the deep investment and intimacy that characterized the love are poisoned by betrayal, unresolved conflict, narcissistic injury, and attachment fears. The intense focus remains, but its emotional charge becomes overwhelmingly negative. The path forward, whether for personal healing or reconciliation, often involves breaking the cycle of contempt and moving through the underlying pain towards a place of acceptance or, ideally, indifference. Thank you for watching the video. Please subscribe to my channel.